to tell a story about any character, an original character or a pre-existing character, you've got to ask one question. Who is this character? So if you're adapting Superman, you've got to ask that question. Who is Superman? Who is Clark Kent? Who is Kal-El, the last son of Krypton? What motivates him? You've got to look at the character's core background. First of all, he's the ultimate immigrant. He's basically shot in a spaceship from a planet to another planet. He's found by human beings, the salt of the earth, with Mid-Western values. And he is raised with those Mid-Western values. Those Mid-Western values are the reason that Clark Kent becomes Superman and becomes the hero that he becomes. Superman is a very compelling character in his some parts. A lot of people won't agree with that, but he is. This is a person who has the power of a god, who can fly, who can crush your skull, who can shoot fire from his eyes or heat vision from his eyes. He could use that power to maim, to kill, to destroy, to get whatever he wants, and he doesn't. Why? Because of the Mid-Western values from Ma and Pa Kent. That is who Superman is. Ultimately, Superman is the good man. What motivates him is what motivates most of us. Without powers, without being aliens. He just wants to live his life. He wants to go to work. He wants to live. He wants to exist. But he wants to contribute to the world that adopted him as well. That's who Superman is. Now, these may just be, to you, basic ideals, but they're not. They're a way you can formulate a character. So when we ask who is Superman, who is Kal-El, who is Clark Kent, this is who he is. We're all formed by our parents' values. Now, even though I don't want to admit it, sometimes I've got my mother's and father's voices, they're both dead now, in my head. Now, a lot of the values that they had are values that are not, let's say, respected and liked in the world today. So I've tried to get rid of kind of the point that they're a product of their time and they had a lot of hates and dislikes for people that I don't have. I'm a lot more accepting than the rest of my family, my siblings and my parents. I've tried to take the values that my parents had that were good values and the bad ones, which were from the time that they were raised in, I pushed them to one side as an emotionally intelligent person. But Clark Kent was raised on good, honest values. Be a good person, do a full day's work, contribute to society. That's what Clark Kent is. Now from that, you can take and you can formulate a story that this is a person in a more cynical world. Now I do believe that this is what James Gunn's been talking about as well. You know, basically James Gunn's been saying, well, this is a really good person in a world that believes being good is a bad thing. Or people are cynical about utterly good people. Because everyone's got flaws. And I believe that Superman should never be flawless. Superman should have the character flaws that we all do. The only thing is that Superman doesn't act upon his character flaws. That's the most important thing. So if you can find a way to formulate a character that is a little bit flawed here or there, not in a really, really bad way, but little icks, I suppose, you can formulate an interesting character. So, yeah, this is what you have to do. You have to ask who this character is, what motivates him, and what would give someone, you know, what would make someone with all that power not use that power for their own benefit instead of the benefit of the world. But there's even politicians out there, very few of them, who try and give back to society. They're not all corrupt. And neither is Superman. Superman decides to do good because he was brought up by good people. And he is a good person. But being a good person doesn't mean you can't be flawed. And I think it's very important in this day and age that someone like James Gunn, who's writing for Superman, a very iconic character, does give him flaws at the end of the day. He shouldn't be perfect. No one should be perfect. And I know there's like versions in the Superman comics where Superman is actually perfect. You can't do that today. He can have a sense of humor. He doesn't always have to say and do the right thing. He needs to be clean. But the most important thing that we want from a Superman movie is hope, is heart. We haven't had a Superman movie with heart since Dick Donner's Superman. I mean, even Superman 2 had less heart than Superman the movie because Dick's version of Superman 2 wasn't used theatrically. They brought in Dick Lester and he kind of rewrote a lot of that beautiful movie that Dick Donner directed and Tom Mankiewicz written, which is a great tragedy. But Superman needs to be hopeful. The movie needs to have heart. They're skipping the origin story, so we're not going to see how Lois and Clark get together. They could already be a couple by Superman Legacy. Who the hell knows? But it's like Lois Lane. You have to ask who she is. She was brought up by General Sam Lane. So there is a military kind of personality around Lois. Lois is a hero in her own right. She is a journalist because she wants to give back to society. Just like Superman wants to give back to society with the abilities he inherently has inside him. With her being a journalist, she goes around trying to expose people, trying to do harm to the world like Lex Luthor. That's who Lois Lane is. So when you're writing characters, as I say, whether they're existing characters or not, you've got to ask who the hell they are before you put pen to paper or you start tapping on your laptop or however you write your scripts or your screenplays. Without asking yourself who these people are, you can't tell a story about them. You're basically just going through the motions, and you can't be going through the motions with Superman. In the Snyderverse, Superman is a viewer of his own story. At the end of Man of Steel, a film that I love, I don't really understand what Superman has learnt about society and learnt about himself. At the end of the day, a story should be a lesson for the character. That's where the best stories come from. The whole idea in Superman the movie that Superman shouldn't break human history and basically change human history, and he does. Now, even there, you should have had more of a lesson that, maybe the Earth has changed because Superman went back in time. But ultimately, it was a film set in the 70s. But there is this kind of journey for Superman in Superman the movie. And it ends in a very, very hopeful way. Dick Donner liked ending his movies hopefully. And, ultimately, when you look at Man of Steel, what did the character learn from his journey? And that's the question you're answering. Man of Steel has great themes, but I just don't understand what it did for Superman himself. Now, Batman vs. Superman may do a better job than Man of Steel of actually taking Superman on a journey and making him accept the planet Earth. And human beings, even the ones who dislike him, and that's why he sacrifices his life, and ultimately fights Doomsday, and him and Doomsday kill each other. There's a journey there. So this is what we need to do. Because Superman right now is on trial. People are asking, is this character your aunt and uncle's superhero? Your granddad's and grandmother's superhero? Or can he be a relatable superhero to the TikTok Gen Z millennial generation who are very, very hard to please? Can we get them off their devices and back into cinemas via Superman Legacy? Doing that, you're not going to do it with Brainiac or another alien invasion. It starts with your principal character, Superman, Clark Kent, Kal-El, the last son of Krypton.